In the red corner, standing at 6 feet 3 inches tall, weighing in at 225 pounds and sporting a body that would make Stevie Wonder double look, it's the one and only Frank Bruno. Frank would be coming into this fight just 24 years on this planet and with a knockout record second to none. Having had 27 wins and 26 knockouts to date, it's safe to say Bruno was on the hunt for the heavyweight championship. But standing in his way was a bad boy, recently released from jail, one-punch expert, all the way from the back streets of Seattle, Washington, Larry Frazier. Larry would have 19 wins and 18 big knockouts. Only a madman would think this fight was going to go the distance. Not only did Frazier know his way around the boxing ring, but he also knew his way around the mean streets. This bad boy would be looking to do some damage on the young British star. The fight would be one of the biggest tests in Bruno's career to date. Yes, Frank had a lot of fights under his belt, but only a handful of names stood out in hard-hitting contenders. If Bruno was to go all the way, this was a fight he was going to have to grind out. Before the fight with Larry Frazier, Frank Bruno was already a well-known name in British boxing. Born in 1961 in the West End of London, Bruno had a difficult upbringing and, like Frazier, would spend time in a young offenders institute. But Frank would find solace in boxing. His professional debut in March 1982 was the beginning of a meteoric rise through the ranks of the heavyweight division. Bruno quickly established a reputation for his powerful punching and imposing physique. By the time he faced Frazier in 1985, he had captured the hearts of fans across the country. His raw power and ability to finish fights early made him a home favourite, and the British public began to rally behind Frank's potential for the World Championship. Despite his success, there were doubts about Bruno's ability to compete at the highest level. After the shock loss to Bone Crusher Smith and that first round saved by the bell against Jumbo Cummings, critics also pointed out that many of his early opponents were not particularly formidable, and questions lingered about how he would fare against more seasoned fighters. But that said, as the old saying goes, you can only beat who is in front of you. And the bout against Larry Frazier was seen as a significant step up in competition and a litmus test for Bruno's potential as a future world title contender.
I've got to do it because I don't want to work on the building site or nothing like that, so I've got to do it.
Larry Frazier held a name notorious in boxing and is not to be linked to other legendary heavyweights of similar time. For good reason, Larry would be on the back of a 2-year hiatus after spending his best years, not in the roped four walls, but concrete ones. He was sentenced to time behind bars for a backstreet dealing, and when the police showed up, he'd done a number on the officer attending the scene. Frazier was an imposing figure in downtown Seattle and also in the ring, standing at 6 feet 5 and weighing over 16 stone. He entered the fight against Bruno as the underdog. While he was not expected to pose a serious threat to Bruno, the fight was seen as an opportunity for Frazier to upset the odds and make a name for himself. He approached the fight with a sense of determination and a desire to defy expectations. Frazier's camp believed that Bruno's lack of experience against tougher opponents could be exploited, and they aimed to push the British fighter beyond the early rounds where he had yet to be tested. The fight carried an element of national pride, with Bruno representing the hopes of British boxing fans. The pressure on Bruno was immense to validate the belief that he was Britain's next great heavyweight hope. We joined the fighters in the first round at a familiar venue to British boxing fans, Royal Albert Hall, London.
Bruno now ranked answer. Frazier, as you can see for yourself, is a big over Bruno, who we know is 6'3". Frazier 16 stone 12 3/4, and he stands perhaps 6 feet 5. He almost seems to tower. Of course, brought in as a last-minute substitute for Larry Alexander, the original opponent, who came to this country but was in training for a fight in the States. So he switched opponents and came to London. Failed a brain scan, and they had time to round in a hurry to find a substitute, and it turned out that this man, Larry Frazier, born in Seattle, now fights out of Bakersfield, California. Champion. He had his first pro fight, Frazier, in August 1972. He's been the distance with Greg Page, the former world heavyweight champion, and at that time Bruno was 10 years old. He's been stopped only once in his life, Frazier. And that was 9 years ago. Come on, enjoy yourself. He means relax.
Come on, enjoy yourself.
I can hear an anger be too relaxed at this moment. Bone at his face since Bone Crusher Smith. Nine weeks ago at Wembley, he beat the Swede Anders Eklund to win that European title. Bruno's first fight as European champion. Title. 4-round knockout. Bruno beginning to open up with the big rights to the bottom.
Bruno would head back to his corner with his head up, first round in the bag and definitely landing the bigger shots. Frazier would sit, not with the wind knocked out of him, but with something to think about. Before they come out for the second round, Bruno's head coach would give him the nod. The nod only a fighter and his team would know. We've got them right where we want them. Get out there and finish this.
Bulk. Considering the length of time he's been a pro, Frazier moving crabwise, which is 13 years. He's had very few fights. Part of that also shakes his head as Bruno hits him and says no. The reason is that don't hurt me with those. Well, maybe he did, otherwise perhaps he wouldn't have. In 1983, he very unwisely threw a punch at a policeman, and I'm afraid his head. Part of the reason he's had few fights is that and he's had a couple of fights since, one of them with Larry Alexander, the man who should have been here tonight. He went inside for a little while. In fact, he came out of jail this year with Bruno, and he lost on points to Alexander. And nearly all his defeats go that way. He goes the distance. Bruno got caught with the left hook over the top of his guarding right hand there. Little ominous. Right over the top. Frazier's playing games with him, saying, come on, come to me again. That's a good punch. Left underneath. Oh, he's got the man rolling. He got him underneath with a tremendous left, and he's over and out. Oh, that's amazing. All over the ring, and he may not beat the count. And if he doesn't, it's sensational. He's not going to get up. Larry Frazier counted out. Absolutely had been stopped in his career. And this man Bruno has done it again. He does hurt people.
What a knockout from our man Frank Bruno. We leave you with one question. Are you an old school boxing fan? If so, give that subscribe button a stiff jab. I've been Frank Monroe here at Below the Belt Boxing. Take care.